Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Stamping Saturday on Saturday, March the 13th. I hope everyone is having a good weekend so far. I am just going to pop over to my page and get this up and running so I can make sure you're actually seeing me, because, that would be helpful. It makes it a lot easier for you to make the cards if you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, there we go. All right. Once again, good morning. Welcome. I hope everyone has a nice weekend planned for them. And thanks very much for joining me if you're here this morning or for watching later if you can't be here for the live. Today, we are going to use the Painted Poppies and Peaceful Moments stamp sets. And these ones are in the annual catalog. I really like these ones. So that's the Painted Poppies stamp set. And then this Peaceful Moments, I really like the sentiments in this set. As you can see, it is just sentiments, no images, which makes it perfect to pair with any images you like. So those are the sets we're going to be using today. And these, excuse me, sorry, are the cards we're going to make today. So this one, just a nice simple little poppy on the outside and repeated on the inside. And then this one's kind of fun because we've got these different layers and the images go across the multiple layers. And nice little poppy on the inside. So I'm going to set that one aside. We're going to start with this single poppy today. I'm just going to slide that up there. It looks like you can still see it there. Excuse me while I pull up my sleeves. So for this one, you're going to need a piece of white cardstock that is 8.5 by 5.5 and folded in the middle to make a base. And then you need the Poppy Parade cardstock. And that one is, I'm trying to remember, 5.25 by 4 inches. Excuse me, sorry, frog in the throat this morning or something. And then we have a piece of the Flowers for Every Season designer series paper. I really like this. It's got a whole bunch of different flowers in it. This one, actually, you can see there's the flip side, just some nice little, I'll bring that up a bit, nice little yellow flowers there. But that's the side I'm going to be using today. And so that one is, yes, 5 inches by 3.75 inches. And another little piece of the Poppy Parade that is 3.25 inches across by 1.75 inches high. And then another piece of white that'll be 1.5 by 3 inches. Okay, and then last but not least, I'm going to be using a piece of the gold metallic edge ribbon, and I've got a piece that's about 5 inches long. The exact length on this doesn't matter because we're going to wrap the edges around, but about 5 inches should give you enough room to wrap it. Okay, so we can set our card base aside for the moment. And what we're going to do is attach this designer paper to the red. So I'm going to flip that over, grab my Stampin' seal, and we're going to put that on the back of the designer paper. Just go around the edge, and just a reminder to do that little flick at the end to avoid having it stretch and tear. And which way up do we want that? I think we're going to go that way. Oh, make sure that, yeah, good. Okay, we're going to center that right on there, or at least as close to center as we can estimate. And then I'm going to set that aside for a minute. And we're going to get our little piece of white cardstock, and we're going to stamp this flower. So we need to get our block and our stamp. And put that on there. One little thing you'll notice, if I put this on the block, it's pretty much right at the edges, which might mean you don't get a clear image stamped. So I'm going to put it on at an angle, and that way it's fully on the block and we don't end up with blurry image at the edges and add my Memento black ink to that. Get that all inked up. And apparently I need to get my re-inker out and re-ink my stamp pad. There we go. And get that on there relatively straight at least. I say relatively because, you know, it never is completely straight, but that's okay. It's handmade. I'll put the lid back on my stamp pad, clean off my stamp. Oh, you can't see it, but I've just got my nice little stamping chamois off to the side here. And I'm using that to clean my stamps. And then we're going to color this in. It's actually really simple to color this one. I am using the Poppy Parade Stampin' Rate marker. Excuse me again, and the Just Jade Stampin' Rate marker. This one is one of the in colors, and these are sets of 5 colors that are not part of the regular color families for Stampin' Up. They're just available for a short time. So this is the 2020 to 2022 set, part of that. So have a look at those, because if you like these, you only have a limited time to get them. All right, so I'm going to use this one to color in the stems and the leaves. Make sure I'm still where you can see me. Oh, and I should point out there's 2 ends to these. This is like a felt tip end, and this is like a ballpoint end. You can use either one, whatever works for you. I'm using the wider end, and it's kind of like a paintbrush. You don't need to put any pressure on it at all. In fact, if you do, you can kind of squish the end. So I'm using this very gently, kind of like you would a paintbrush, just to get the color on there. And then I'm actually going to switch to this thinner end for this other stem, just because it's a much narrower little area to color. And it's easier to get the color where I want it if I use that narrower end. There we go. Set that one aside. And then we're going to use the Poppy Parade to color in the poppy, which, you know, makes sense. It's a poppy, so we'll use Poppy Parade. Why not? Although you certainly don't have to. You can use any color you like. And again, we'll just sort of paint the color in there. And if you notice any little white spots, you can just go touch them up like that. And then we'll get this flower bud over here like that and set that aside. Okay, and then this is going to get layered onto this smaller piece of the Poppy Parade cardstock. So I'm going to add my Stampin' Seal here. Even though it's a small piece, I'm still going all the way around because we want to make sure it sticks. All right, and I will center this on here, approximately like so. Okay, so now we're going to need this piece that we did a minute ago with the designer paper in the red, and we're going to need our ribbon. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the ribbon and we're going to end up sticking it down so that these ends of the ribbon wrap around. But what I like to do is just kind of place things without any adhesive first and just see, like, do you like it down near the bottom or up near the top or centered? Do you want it off to one side or the other? And so that's why I like to do it without the adhesive. I tend to like things to be nice and centered, so that's probably what I'm going to do here, but you go ahead and put it wherever you would like. So that's where I want that to go. So now I'm just going to hang on to the ribbon with a thumb there. And so just kind of keeping that in place, I'm going to flip this cardstock over. So now you can see the ends of the ribbon are on the other side there. And I'm just going to run a little bit of the Stampin' Seal down there, like so, and fold that piece of ribbon over. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. Just run a little bit down and fold the ribbon over. So now we can see we've got that ribbon centered there. So now we can attach this to our card base now that our ribbon is secure. So I'm going to run the Stampin' Seal all the way around this now, and you can run right over the ribbon. It'll help it stay in place. That's fine. Get that all around there. And so now again, you can kind of decide, which way you might want this to go. If it makes a difference to you, make sure you've got your card base opening the right way. Unless you have a friend that you like to play pranks on, then you can have it open the other way. Why not? And get that centered on there. And 1 second. I can see that somebody made a comment, but I can't see the comment. There it is. Hello, Carla. Thanks for joining me. Yes, it is a really nice set. I really like this set. Okay, so we've got that attached. The last step is simply to put this on, and I'm going to use some dimensionals just to raise this up. If you can kind of see, it's hard with the light, but this is just raised up a little bit. So I'm going to use a few of these Stampin' dimensionals and put that on the back there, and one in the middle to add support. Don't be afraid to use your dimensionals. You want to make sure that this thing stays in place. Peel the backing off the dimensionals. There. And we're going to get our flower centered on the front. Okay, and I'm actually going to get my stamp back again and ink it up again. And I'm going to add a flower to the inside of the card as well. This is optional. You don't have to put anything on the inside, but I certainly like to. You can actually add stuff to your envelope as well. I don't have an envelope ready to go for this one yet, but if you want to, you can always add a flower or something to the envelope as well, so it's nice and pretty. And then I'm going to flip this open and just stamp this down in this bottom left corner. Clean my stamp again. And then I'm just going to color it the same way that I did the one on the front. So we'll use our Poppy Parade to color the flower in here. Okay, get that all around the edges. There. And fill in the little gaps. Get the other little flower. There we go. And get the Just Jade to color in the leaf and the stems. So does anybody have any weekend plans? Anybody got anything special going on this weekend? I know it's kind of hard with the situation at the moment, but maybe you've got a fun activity planned for the family. Myself, I'm actually going to work later today, but I work in a chocolate shop, so really not that bad. I get to be around chocolate all day. I don't mind. Get this other little stem colored in here. Okay. So that's our first card, done. There's the front and there's the inside. Okay, so we're going to set that one aside. And then next one, Carla's hanging out in our craft room. That is a very good place to spend the weekend, Carla. If I wasn't going to work, I would be out in my craft room today also. So this is the card we're going to make next, and you can see that the images kind of go across the two layers here, and it creates a really neat effect, and it's actually quite simple to do. So let's just make sure we've got everything we need. So we've got a garden green. It is a fun Saturday job working in a chocolate shop. It's so terrible having to eat the chocolate and the gelato. It's just, yes, I know it's a difficult job, but somebody's got to do it. Anyway, garden green. So again, 8.5 by 5.5, folded in half to make a card base. And then we've got 2 pieces of white that are the same size. So both of these are 5 1/4 by 4. One's going to go on the front of the card. One is going to go on the inside of the card. Doesn't matter which is which because they're both exactly the same size. We've got another piece of green that is 4 1/4 by 3 inches. And then a piece of white that is going to layer on top of that. And so that's 4 across by 2 3/4 inches. And then one more set of layers, another piece of green. It's 2.5 across by 1.5 high. And last but not least, our little piece of white that's 2 1/4 across by 1 1/4 high. Okay, so what we need to start, we need one of these 5 1/4 by 4 inch pieces of white, and we need this middle size white. Everything else can be set aside just for the moment. And these are going to go horizontally like this. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to add a little bit of adhesive to the back of this, just to the center. And you want to make sure you're just putting just a little bit in there because we're going to stick the layers together temporarily and then pull them apart again. So I'm going to do it. I was practicing, so I have some on the back of this already, but I'm going to add just a little bit of adhesive in the center. And then what you can do is you can just kind of pat it on your sleeve a little bit like that. And it makes it kind of fuzzy, which is fine in this case because we're going to want it to come apart again in a minute. And then we're going to center the small piece onto the larger piece. And don't really press down, just kind of set it in place. And then I'm going to get my block and I'm going to trade stamps. So I am going to use the large poppy, and I'm going to use the small poppy, and I'm going to use the smaller of the 2 leaves. And I'm going to start with the largest flower. Do that one first, and then I can fit the smaller ones in around it. Get that on my block, get my ink pad. And now you get to just stamp this wherever you'd like. So you can see on this one, I just stamped this big one a couple of times. So I'm just going to do something similar now. Let's see, we'll stamp this guy up here. And you'll see when I lift this, that there's a little gap here where the ink doesn't show up. Let me lift this up closer to the camera so you can hopefully see. Just here, you'll see there's a gap between the layers that the image didn't really come through. That's perfectly fine. We're going to add a green layer in there, so it's going to get covered up. So don't worry about that. That is just because we're going across the layers, that's what happens. You're not going to see it on the finished card. I think we'll add one more of those guys down there. I'm going to clean that and switch to the slightly smaller, slightly folded flower. And I'm going to stamp that guy a couple of times. I really need to remember to re-ink my black. Let's see, let's put, where do we want to put it? We'll put one down there. And yes, I am re-inking my stamp every time. You don't have to, but I like them all to be, if I'm doing a color, I might not re-ink so that I get 2 shades of the same color, but with black, I like to have it be all the same shade, if you will. Are there shades of black? I don't know. If it's a shade of black, does that make it gray? Whatever. We can call it whatever we want. And I'm going to put one more flower in there. And also, I'm not really worried about the center here because this sentiment is going to go in the middle here. So I'm not really worried about filling that in. Set that aside and get my leaf. And we'll just add a few leaves and just fit them in wherever you like. I'm not putting them in so that it looks like it's coming from the flower. I'm just putting them in around the flowers. I'll put one up there, and I think we'll do One more down in that corner. I want to do one more. Let's put one more down at the bottom there. Why not? We'll stick, put it that way. One more down there. Clean that stamp off and set that aside, and then put the ink pad aside. And I'm going to use 3 different markers for this. I've got a garden green marker, a melon mambo marker, and a flirty flamingo marker. So you can see on the sample that with the flowers, there's actually a different shade around the edges. So that's the flirty flamingo and the melon mambo, and then the leaves are in the green. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to start with the green, and just like on the other card, we're just going to color these all in and go across the layers. And again, you might have a little gap where the layers meet, but that's fine. It's going to get covered up with our green cardstock that we're going to add in. And next, so how's the weather where everybody is? Just in case you don't know, I'm in Tofino, and March in Tofino is typically pretty rainy. I don't think it's actually raining outside right now, but it is rather cloudy and gray. I suspect we are going to get damp today here. But hopefully somebody out there has sunshine. We actually did have quite a bit of sun earlier in the week, which was a nice reprieve from the spring rains. Actually got cold. We went below freezing a couple nights, had frost and everything. I know the rest of Canada's laughing at me, but out here, cold is kind of rare. So when we get frost, we all panic a little bit when we actually have to scrape the windshield. Good heavens. Oh, it's foggy where Carla is. It's March in Port Alberni, Carla. That's probably normal, isn't it? Okay, that's our last leaf, and then we're going to go to the flowers. So I'm just going to show you on here. Let's bring that up so you can see on this flower here. You see how there's those kind of little edge bits here? That's what I'm going to leave for the darker color. And same on this little guy. There's just 2 little edge bits. So I'm going to color most of the flower with the flirty flamingo, but I'm going to leave those bits. So I'm just going to go around. You see how I've left a bit there, and I'm leaving this here. And again, you can color right over where the card layers meet. And I'm going to go ahead and just color in the whole center of the flower with the flirty flamingo. Oh, that moves slightly. There we go. I don't know if you caught that, but my top layer just moved ever so slightly, which is fine. I just put it back ever so slightly. And again, because we're going to have the green in between, it doesn't matter if the layers don't match precisely. Okay. And yes, this does take a few minutes to color all of them in, but that's okay. We will just keep coloring. It's kind of like Finding Nemo, just keep swimming. Except in this case, it's a lot less water. We're just going to keep coloring. Go around the edges there. That's the nice part about this thick paintbrush end on these, excuse me, Stampin' Right markers is they make coloring so easy. And just in case you didn't already know this, these markers do come in all of the regular Stampin' Up! Colors. So there's 4 color families Stampin' Up! Has, and you can buy the markers in sets. So you get 10 markers in a set, all the colors in that particular family. There we go, there's that one. Just flip this around a little bit to color at the bottom here. What was I saying? Right, markers. So yes, I actually really like these. And because they come in the color families, they coordinate with the cardstock and with each other, and they make it really easy for people. I've never really considered myself an artistic person, but Stampin' Up! Tends to make it really easy because you just pick some colors from the same color family and you're off and running. Flip that around again, get this last flower. Around that edge. Okay, almost there. Keep going here. The last couple of petals. Oh, that slid slightly again. We'll put that back. There we go. And the last one. Fill in a couple little gaps here. Okay, that is that one. And last but not least, we're going to take this Melon Mambo and just fill in these little bits. You probably can't see because my hand's in the way, but I'm just filling in these little edges of the petals that we didn't color with the Flirty Flamingo. And it just adds a nice little highlight. If you want the flowers to just be one color, you can go right ahead and color it all in. That's fine. I just decided that I wanted a little bit of contrast with the edges there. Last one there. And last couple little bits on this bottom flower. There. Okay. Set the markers aside. So now what we're going to do is we're going to very carefully pull this up. Just release that adhesive from in the middle. There. So now we've got these 2 separate pieces. Excuse me, sorry again. And I'm going to set that one aside and I'm going to get this middle green layer. So this is the one that's 4 1/4 by 3. It's going to be just slightly bigger than this panel. So we'll flip this guy over and we'll add adhesive all the way around. Nope. And if it does that, or it doesn't like to start, you can just run it on your hand, or I sometimes run my thumb under it like that. Get it started. There we go. And now you can just put adhesive all the way around because this is going to its final position now. Now, one thing, before you just put this on here, you want to reference this top piece and make sure, because you don't want to end up with this backwards. So you want to reference this top piece and make sure you're getting this there. Although, mind you, at this point, we could always flip the green if we needed to, but I like just making sure that it's the right way around. So now I'm going to trade. I'm going to just set that one up here. And I'm going to get the base. This is the full folded base. And we're going to put adhesive on the back of this. And we're going to adhere it to our card base. Put adhesive all the way around there. And make sure that yes, the card is opening at the bottom, and that's going to go that way. So this is the way we want this to go. Center that on there. And now we want this other set of layers. So we've got the bottom piece of coloring on the card base. And we've got this one that was our top layer when we colored, and it's on its own green layer. And now we're going to put adhesive on the back of this green layer. Just run that along there, like so. Excuse me again. Okay, now is where it's really important, because if I put this way, nothing matches. It's an interesting effect, and you're welcome to do that. It looks kind of cool, actually. But if you want it to match, you need to make sure that you put it back the way you had it before. And it's not going to line up absolutely perfectly, but just get it so that it is mostly lined up to the best of your ability. And we will put that down there. There, and now you have flowers across 2 layers. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside for just a second. I'm going to, do I want to do the inside? Let's do the inside. So you can see on the one I did 1 flower and a leaf on the inside. So we need this other piece of 5 1/4 by 4 white, and we'll get, still got my leaf on there. Nope, I'm going to trade. I'm going to go back to my flower. And I'm going to stamp or ink that rather. There, and just put that kind of down in the corner there. And my stamp. Switch to the leaf. Now I just did 1 big flower and 1 leaf inside, but if you'd rather do the little flower, or you want to add more to the inside, you could put flowers all the way around if you wanted, whatever you want to do. I'm just going to add that leaf kind of above the flower and clean off that stamp. And then I'm going to color that in again. So we've got our garden green for the leaf. And we'll just quickly add some color to this. So for those of you with kids, is everyone on spring break now? I think spring break has started. There's the green. I'm going to go back to the flirty flamingo. I have cats instead of human children, so I'm not really up on spring break, because every day is spring break when you're a cat, apparently. But I believe spring break has started. Excuse me. And just add this flirty flamingo. And again, I'm kind of leaving the little edge bits so that I can add my darker color. Go around this. And this one. Coloring the center. Go around that so my little edge of the petal can be darker. There we go. Grab my melon mambo, fill in those little bits. Like so. There we are. Okay. Excuse me, I don't know what is up today. So this is going on the inside of our card. So I'm going to, you can see I was messing with the backside of that too. This is actually, so this is the side I'm going to use today. This is something I was playing with the other day. So don't be afraid to use the other side of the cardstock. I was doing something and it didn't work, but now I'm just going to use this side and it's perfectly fine. And if I can get my card base to open, here we go. Center this. You don't have to put anything inside, but I find it's just, if you try to write on this, it's really hard to read. Thanks, Glenda. So I'm just going to center this inside there. And now we have a nice white piece inside that we can write our message on. So it's a lot easier for folks to read it. Okay, and then the last step is to add our sentiment. So we're going to get this small piece of the basic white cardstock and the Peaceful Moments stamp set. So I use the one Wishing You Every Happiness this special day will bring for a birthday, but there's also just a happy birthday, thank you, whatever you want to use. Get that guy out of there. And I'm just going to set that down so I can make sure I've got it straight. Put that on there. My husband is chatting with my cat in the background, so if you can hear that, that's what's happening. My husband and my cat are having a lovely conversation. She's trying to convince him to feed her again, even though I already gave her breakfast. Okay, we will put that in the middle of there. Oh, and that was completely not straight. That is why cardstock has two sides. We'll try that again. There, and let's see if we can actually get it straight this time. That's much better. Okay, clean off the stamp and set that aside. So now this is going to go on this last remaining piece of green cardstock. So we'll flip that. I'm going to put the adhesive on the side that was crooked. Both ends, run a bit down the middle there. And we will center that on this piece of green there. And now I chose not to use dimensionals for this one. I chose just to leave this all flat, but you could of course put dimensionals on this. You don't want to put dimensionals here because you want these layers to blend together. But this one, if you wanted to put it up on dimensionals, you certainly could. I, however, am just going to leave it flat. So I'm just going to put my stamp and seal on that and center that. And this is why I didn't worry about stamping the flowers and the leaves in the middle, because they're now covered up anyway. And there is our card, outside and inside. So that is both our cards done. So there we are. Oh, thanks, Norma. Yes, you will have to try. This technique is actually really easy. I was surprised by how easy it is. The trick, just to go over it for everybody, is when you put these two layers together to not use too much adhesive on this top layer, or it's going to tear or bend when you pull the layers apart again. So you just want some light adhesive on this. And then you can pull them apart, put them back on their layers. And you do want this color in between, because as we saw, the stamp doesn't catch at the edge. There is a little gap in the images. So that's why you want that layer in between. All right, so there's our cards for today. Thanks for joining me. I will be back next Saturday, and I'm going to use the Sand and Sea suite. If you haven't seen that in the January to June mini catalog, it's absolutely fantastic. I will show you one of the cards we're going to do here. And so I absolutely love this suite because this whole thing is all one piece, and you can stamp and die cut and emboss so that it all matches. It's absolutely wonderful. So anyway, we're going to do that one. We're going to do a second one, which I haven't quite decided on yet. So that's why I'm not showing it to you. But yeah, that's the Sand and Sea suite. I will post on my page somewhere in the next couple of days some photos of the cards we're going to make and the list of supplies you'll need so that you can have it ready. And hopefully you can join me. Have a great week in the meantime, and I will see you next Saturday. Bye, everyone.